Hello and welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today we're going to be looking at the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. Now, initially I thought it would be a bit odd to do a video purely talking about a controller, but there's some things about this that I really think need to be talked about, and I haven't seen as much interest in it as perhaps I would have thought there was. Now, it's clear that Sony has made some incredible leaps with this controller. First off, it's far more ergonomic, and it's far more comfortable to hold than the old PlayStation 4 controller. And I think that's important because games have got more intense, and sort of the ability to have something comfortable to hold onto is always a good thing. The real innovation though comes in the haptic feedback that they've built into the R2 and L2 triggers, which is something I've never really experienced before. Don't get me wrong, I've got a Nintendo Switch and I absolutely love their controllers and how you can feel the various different elements through them in a way that I don't think we've seen in gaming controllers before. I kind of think that Nintendo kind of brought that to the masses. But PlayStation's taken it a step further, with real force feedback on the triggers akin to what you'd have on some of the arcade games of yesteryear. But it comes at a price, and it's a weird price. It's fatigue in your fingers when you're playing certain games, and more importantly, this is the noisiest controller I've ever used. The clicks and the rumbles that come out of it when you're shooting or when you're driving in a racing game are actually really noisy. And if, for instance, you're the kind of person that games through headphones rather than out loud through television, you can really annoy the people around you, it turns out. I don't think it's a deal breaker, and it's not a bad thing, but I think it's really interesting how Sony has taken this idea and really run with it. Now, it's important to note, you can turn all of those things off. So, for instance, I was playing World Rally Championship 9, and you can turn the haptic element off on the controller. And I genuinely found I was, not because it was a worse gaming experience, it wasn't, it's so much more immersive when you're using it, but because of how disruptive it is, and because of how tired my fingers got. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're playing World Rally Championship 9, and your car gets damaged quite badly, for instance, the engine and the brakes. You will actually feel it because it will give you a lot of resistance as you're trying to drive the car with the L2 and R2 triggers by pushing back against your fingers. And after 3 or 4 minutes, your fingers get really tired, which is a really odd sensation. I'm not saying, again, that it's a bad thing in terms of experience. It's a whole new thing to deal with when you're gaming. And similarly, I was playing some of the new Call of Duty Cold War game, and when you're aiming down the sight, there's quite a lot of resistance on your L2 trigger. So again, you're sort of feeling what you're doing. And again, your fingers can get quite tired. It's a very odd sensation, and perhaps it's because I'm not used to it, and indeed I doubt many gamers are going to be used to it, that's why you're feeling it. But it's an interesting thing to think about. The noise, I think, is something Sony needs to address, because this controller is really loud, and I'm going to play you some audio now of the sounds of using it. Sorry about the not being in here. I don't have the PlayStation with me in here, and I couldn't really replicate it in this environment, but hopefully this will give you an idea of what it's like. So yeah, it's a bit mind-blowing really. It's a fantastic controller, and I really like what Sony's done. I just hope that we see refinements of this as we go forward with hopefully quieter controllers, and more importantly, hopefully we're also going to have a different sort of softer approach in certain games as well, because I do think that the fatigue might actually be an element that will see gamers switching off the haptics, which will be a shame because it's such a great new way of experiencing games. So yeah, an interesting little short video about the PS5 controller. If you have an opportunity to try one of these out in the future, I really recommend it. It's really cool and very different, and it certainly changed the way I experience games, and if anything, it's made them a lot more enjoyable, at the same time making them more difficult, and something I hadn't expected. So I just wanted to highlight that in a little short video. If you have any questions about the PS5 controller, pop them in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, as it really helps and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.